So, the first myth I wanted to tackle is the manufacturer mindset that you're effectively making products for a chef whose job is done once the food is cooked. And that's just a huge mischaracterization of the role of the modern chef. And it doesn't really give a rounded view of what a chef in the real world, be it a contract caterer, a cafe, a restaurant, a ferry, a school, actually does. Okay. So, beyond the actual food preparation, there are orders to track, ingredients to keep on top of, stocks to manage, products to temper, service times to finesse and manage, and of course, any complaints and feedback from the customers needs to be onboarded. And of course, once it's done and you've served the covers, there's the kitchen to clean and compact down all the recycling or those elements that are going straight to landfill. In fact, the chef is at the center of a sort of dance of choreography and timings of preserving, chilling, heating, serving, and presenting. And of course, at every stage, from appearance on the plate to the temperature of the foods to color combinations, the customer perception can be altered and improved. So manufacturers, for me, need to have that empathy and that kind of line of sight to what a modern chef does, and to make sure that products are positioned to chefs and they're easy to use, both in before, during, and after the cooking, and that really kind of contribute to a well-run, well-managed, well-stocked kitchen. And that's a really important point for manufacturers to get right. So the myth that I wanted to tackle secondly is that food service is somehow de-skilled as an occupation and as a profession, and is becoming increasingly more de-skilled. And I think, to be honest, if you spend time in the kitchen approximate to chefs and you hang around with chefs and you understand what is literally on their plate, it's just not the case. Running a busy kitchen requires attention to detail, communication, expectation management, stock control, financial control, people management, as well as becoming really familiar with the granular nuances of a menu and kind of flavor combinations, ingredient combinations, colors on the palette, quantities calculated, individual customization needs to happen, often just in time, because somebody may pop up in the restaurant, in the kitchen, with a request for an intolerance and more of this and none of that and some of this instead of that. So chefs really need that sort of dynamic ability to deal with the dish. And I think the characteristics of kitchens are very much kind of skilled, and indeed in some aspects require upskilling rather than de-skilling. And I think from a manufacturer, there's a couple of things. You really need to understand the concerns of the catering manager or the chef in terms of turnover of products, ordering profile, and how crucially your product fits into the ultimate dish. Not just your part of the equation, not just your meal center or your meal accompaniment. It's how is it being used in the kitchen? How is the product being retrieved from its storage, taken out of the fridge, opened, left, then resealed, then restored, and at end of life, how is it compacted down to reduce waste in the kitchen and ideally, create a recycling stream? You really need to understand those at a granular detail, which to me only really happen when you get under the skin of a given kitchen and see in the real world how your products are being used. So de-skilled kitchens, I don't think so. Okay, the last thing I want to touch on, the last myth really, is that one size really does fit all in this channel. And I get it. I get it from a manufacturing perspective. It's tempting for food and beverage brands to assume that all cafes, restaurants, and contract caterers broadly have similar needs and therefore need similar products. Because that standardization is important for run length and usage of raw materials, OEE, etc. But in fact, in the real world, there are significant differences in the styles of operation and end customer, end user preferences. And in many ways, there are very effective ways of segmenting customers and in the sense that within, say, contract catering, and QSR and fine dining, the style of a restaurant, the style of an operation, the standard operating procedures that are used actually have more commonality than in the given channel. So you can't just look at all cafes and assume they all have a set of standard operating procedures. There will be similarities, but there'll be differences. And a cafe might have more in common with fine dining restaurant or a corporate catering operation than it does with other cafes. So your segmentation needs to flex as your understanding of the channel or sub-channel deepens, and really reflects the fact that food service is lively, it's dynamic, it moves, it morphs. Fascias are born all the time and they close all the time, and menus are upgraded all the time. So I think you can't treat that one size fits all kind of theory as if it is for real, because a degree of flexibility needs to be applied.